What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Ordinary Freaks. B and Eddie here. This week is very special because we have a business owner, creative director of custom jewelry brand Create, and an overall creative fashionista, styler, anything you want. Model, our good friend, Katrina.
Thank you.
So welcome to the show.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Of course.
You want to jump right into it?
Sure, let's get right into it. So tell us a little bit more about Create, the brand. What is it? And the story behind it.
So I started Create about a year ago. I sell a small collection of pre-designed jewelry, and then I do tons and tons of custom work, so I can create anything. Recently did a pair of cufflinks to custom rings, to pendants, chains, all of that. Basically, the story behind it was I was working for a retail clothing brand, and it was a small up-and-coming brand based out of Vancouver. They had a location in Milwaukee, and was there for about a year growing with the business and whatnot. And they decided one day to shut down all of their U.S. locations. So I was immediately out of a job, and I was like, what am I going to do with myself now? So my family has a long, long history in the jewelry business, and I was kind of designing pieces for my brother already. My mom and I would design every year for his birthday, and I started posting some on social media, and one got a lot of attraction, and people were like, how can I get this? How can I make my own? And it kind of sparked an idea, like in this phase of my life where I was like, what am I going to do next after this? And started to, build a brand out of it and just jumped right into doing that.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So was this like brand that got the hell out of the US? Was that something that you were like, oh, I'm kind of actually passionate, I like their business model? Was that something you were thinking of pursuing?
Yeah, okay. I was. There was an inkling in me always that I wanted something more. My whole family is filled with entrepreneurs. So my grandpa started an accounting firm, basically, built that up from the bottom up. My parents own a jewelry store. It trickles down. So I have that like entrepreneurial spirit in my blood. Yeah. There was always like a longing for more there, but I was building myself up with them, and I had high hopes. But when it did shut down, I was like, well, maybe this happened for a reason. It's kind of a pushing point for me to get me into something more.
So grew up inside your family business. You mentioned kind of being brought up like that. Was there anything as a child that geared you towards, being an entrepreneur? Did you always want to go like the fashion route, the jewelry route? Was there anything else you wanted to be as a kid?
I've always been interested in jewelry and clothes. My best thing was like getting dressed up for school every day. Like in high school, I'd like pre-plan my outfits and like be like, try to be all fly, I won best dress in high school. Okay. Fun fact. So I was very much into fashion and doing like photo shoots and all of that. So I was always, being creative and diving into creative projects. And yeah, I always had that longing to like build a brand of my own. I always looked up to those people that started something from the bottom and built it up. So yeah.
Take me through that like transition period from like, shit, I lost my job, to let me go ahead and do this and create this brand and start this,
Yeah. Oh man, it was difficult. I went through like a down period for sure, like the second the doors closed, because it was literally, we were on a conference call one day with the CEO was on the video chat, and he's like, well, I'm deciding to close all these locations. Like today you have to leave and lock the doors. So it wasn't like you have a few weeks to figure your stuff out. Like, yeah, it was pretty cutthroat. So I definitely went through a period where it was like, dang, I need to figure this out. Like, what am I going to do? Just a thought process of like kind of reflecting on what I've done so far and how I could like create something out of that. And when I look back, I did learn a lot from that experience too, because it was a new store in Milwaukee, and we basically had built it up as our own, like our own boutique. So we had to make our own decisions and throw our own events and build our own newsletters. So it was kind of like running your own business. So a good stepping stone into what I was doing now. But yeah, went through sort of a down period there, and then just started brainstorming, like, what could I do? And my family history plays a huge part in it. Right. So with my parents owning a jewelry store, and it goes all the way back to my great grandpa in diamond sourcing. So that again is like in my blood, basically. Like my mom and I would design pieces for fun for my brother, and then when it started to get traction is really when it started to spark something in my mind.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have anybody that you look up to? Like, obviously, I feel like you're inspired by everything, right? Like everything that's happening. Like you're kind of like, you remind me a lot of like Elena, right? Like a good friend, Elena. Like she, like you can talk to her and she'd be like, oh, that was tight. And then somehow like appears in one of her drawings or ideas, right? Which is kind of insane that she can do that. But like, I think more like focusing on like the jewelry space. Like, I don't know too much about like jeweler. I never wear rings or anything like that. Yeah. But is there like any designer specifically, or a few designers that you've like always looked up to? You know, I mean, being that you're like been in that space and like your family probably has like a lineage of like.
I mean, I have always admired like what Ben Baller has built for himself, because he like came from nothing. And I've listened to podcasts of his where like he had no money at one point, and you know, he's built this empire, and he does this thing where he creates like, I think it's like 2 or 3 custom pieces a year now, because he just puts all of his energy into those 3 pieces and creates something like extraordinary. So definitely like his drive and motivation, like Eliante, like those big guys in the jewelry business kind of inspire me. But really like my family too. My grandpa, like he would design stuff for my grandma, and I still have some of those pieces. Yeah, because her name was Catherine, so I have a lot of I have 2 rings with K's on them that he like designed and created himself. Even like this one I'm wearing too on my pinky, it's like a little buckle with diamonds on it. She was obsessed with buckles for some reason, like belt buckles, so he created a ring out of it, like things like that. And with my custom pieces too, people will come to me with their ideas. It's usually like a very personal meaning to them, and then I'm able to create this. So a lot of my clients bring inspiration as well. Obviously,
being from Milwaukee, having that, you know, family strong bond in that business, like how does it one take that like knowledge and then completely flips it 180, right, and says like, I'm gonna go to New York and figure it out, like literally, right? Because like you probably don't have that many connections at the beginning. Like how was that process, like you moving and taking that leap? I started my brand last February, so it's only about a year and a month old. But I have this drive to like build it up and, you know, get as much exposure as I can for the brand and what I'm doing. And like slowly after, I started doing trips out to New York to connect with influencers and like see if I could create pieces with them, you know, get them to post it on their Instagram just for exposure. And I was going back like every other month because I kept setting up meetings. Like I just started DMing people on Instagram, which actually is very easy to do and great results always. But I was setting up meetings, meeting more and more people, then started doing like photo shoots, like random models wanted to wear my pieces. I was throwing my pieces on them, getting it shot and then posted on other people's pages. A lot of things were just happening and like it was all great. So I made the decision randomly and it was back in July of last year. I was like, I'm going to move there. And my initial thought was I'll move for a few months, test it out and like see how I liked it. One of my friends was like, why would you do that? Just sign a year lease, like jump right in. You're not going to come back after 2 or 3 months. Yeah. I'm like, she's probably right. So I looked for apartments, found one I liked, did a FaceTime tour, and like a week later signed a lease with them. And I was like gone in 2 weeks. This was August I moved. And I don't know. I felt like if I'm going to do it, I have to do it now. I'm 26. Like this is the time. And
I just want to try to get as much exposure as I can, connect with the creatives. So felt like I needed to jump in there.
Full risk.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Was there any like hesitation or kind of what were your biggest fear when making the jump?
Oh, man. I mean, I've lived here pretty much all my life. Like, I went to school for a little bit in Chicago. I did an internship in New York, in Paris for a month too, but never like fully, you know, made a move like permanently. So it was a bit scary. I think being apart from my family was like the scariest because we're so close, and also moving the business because I had, you know, those connections with my family's business and the goldsmiths here and the manufacturers. So all of that was a little bit scary, but it's all turned out really well and it's been great. So good move.
Out of like this whole year that you've been doing, like, I mean, full-time entrepreneurship, I would say, what has been like the, I guess, most important lesson you've learned?
I would say just to not be afraid. Like, even when it comes to like the Instagram DMing, like I would always be like hesitant, like, is this person not going to respond? Like, what are they going to think of me when they see my page? But like, then I was like, who cares even? Like, just blasting out these messages. Like, you have to take risks and like jump into things. And that's when you find that the good stuff starts to happen and the wheels start to turn. So, yeah.
That's cool. What about in business?
To be decisive, I think. Because I can sometimes be very indecisive, but like things move really quickly, and you just have to act quickly too. If you want it to run smoothly.
Is there a certain custom piece that you've created that's like your favorite?
My first custom piece I created was probably my favorite. There's a portrait artist here in Milwaukee who draws insane photos of DJs. My brother owns Site 1A down here, so he kind of collaborated with him, and he would draw pictures before these guys. He like knew the lineup for the month, and he would draw their portraits and like present them to them when they got to the club. And they're like insane detailed drawings of these guys. So I created a solid gold pencil for him, a pendant that hung on a chain. Nice. And that was my very first piece. And I was like obsessed with it because it has, you know, that deep meaning. And like, I was obsessed with his work too. And to just like represent that kind of in a piece of jewelry was really cool. What else? I made something for my brother too. My first custom piece for him was a 1A piece to represent Site 1A. So it was 1A in diamonds on a pendant. Things that have like a lot of meaning behind them too, because it was something he had built up as well. So
Gotcha. I feel like that would be like, that's a cool aspect of it. You know, I feel like you have a connection with the person. Not only is it like a job, but at the end of the day, you build a relationship and probably even know something about a person that not anyone else knows.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was interesting too with that portrait artist. At one point, like I had made him the piece and then he was wearing it. And then I had made another piece for one of the DJs that was at Site one night. So we were like both there collaborating too in a way, and like just how things bring you together, and like two creatives working together too is cool.
I kind of want to touch a little bit on like the fashion side of things, right? Because like if I say like if someone that may not know you prior to this goes to your page, they're gonna be like, wow, like she's actually like a really good stylist. She's a really good model. Like where does that play in the whole like create aspect of like your life? Yeah,
so like I said, I've always been into fashion. It was my favorite thing to get dressed up in high school and like show off the new gear. I don't know. I mean, I do a lot of styling still. It's more of like a freelance fun thing for me to do, but that's also a way for me to like style pieces in my jewelry too. So it all kind of comes full circle. But I will never like lose that passion for fashion. It sounds kind of cheesy, but I've always had an interest in it and admired the designers, and kind of the same thing with jewelry too. Just design in general. Yeah. Do you find it kind of like as an outlet to like maybe get rid of like or get away from the more like technical like
admin business side of things.
Oh,
like,
yeah, 100%.
For me, like shooting video like has been such a like total like release. Or like even like when we were working like in the summer, like we shot a music video and that was hella fun because it was just like three of us, right? Like us two and the producer, and like he was my executive director and I was like shooter, and like we're like, oh, that angle didn't work. And it's just like you're not thinking about the other things like paying bills or doing the stupid like
that's not
adulting
necessarily
stuff,
like work, whereas some people it might be to go out and like curate a photo shoot and style it and do it. For me, I'm like, like let's do that on my free time, like that's fun. Fashion has always been like a form of expression too, obviously. I've always like dressed a little bit differently. It was funny because yesterday I was wearing these like crazy pants with the 3M on them. Like they were like shining, like these patent black boots. And my mom's like, oh, she was talking to this guy. My daughter lives in New York. Like, he's like, oh, I can tell. Look at how she's dressed. He's like, that means something with those pants and those boots. She must be somebody. Like, it was just funny because it's like different from what people are used to seeing here.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
Yeah, it's a form of expression for sure. I've always loved the uniqueness of it.
So
go ahead.
Like out of curiosity, and even for someone watching, like how does someone get into styling? Like obviously you have to have a sense of fashion and brand yourself as that type of person. But I guess in your experience, how did the first gig come out? Or
I guess it came from my Instagram actually.
Okay.
So I was posting pictures of my personal style and just like having fun with photo shoots and just having people shoot random. This wasn't even like professional shoots at the time. It was like iPhone photos, but we would like pick a cool location. I would get dressed up and we would shoot it. And I would have people DM me like, oh, I'm doing this photo shoot with this photographer. Can you dress me for it? And I was like, this could be something, like a little side gig for me. So
did that start here or in New York?
That started here.
Okay.
Yeah. So been doing it for fun, and then kind of turned into a freelance project and some side cash for me. So,
gotcha.
And then now that I've built Create, like I said, I can put my pieces on those people as well, along with the clothes that I source and pick out. So all comes full circle. Yeah.
Yeah, super dope.
Are you still doing modeling as well?
I do some freelance modeling. I've done a few things for some up and coming like startup fashion brands in New York.
Okay.
But yeah, that's all fun stuff for me. I was signed to an agency when I was like 16, Wilhelmina, when they were in the Midwest. I think they were based out of Milwaukee at the time. But I don't know. It was a little bit too strict for me. Like they wanted me to look a certain way. Yeah, and act a certain way and like be all proper for these castings. And I was like, I'll just do this freelance by myself.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Any like crazy stories? Like obviously you're in New York, right? Like you said, you're super into fashion. Like any crazy like random ass guy wanted your picture because they thought you were famous or something?
Nothing too crazy, but when I do go on photo shoots and I'm wearing something like a little out there, I will get stopped, like in Soho for sure. Because there's these street style photographers that sit there and they like wait for it because they want like the out of this world outfit to like post on their Instagram. So they'll be like, stop, like, can I get a picture of you? And I love that. I love it so much. Like the first week I moved there, actually, I didn't even know that was a thing. And I was walking down in Oliver's t-shirt and like some Alik's belt, and she's like, wait, like she chases after me. Let me get a picture quick. And it pops up on her Instagram the next day. I'm like, this is really cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's sick.
Yeah.
It's like a very organic, I guess, way of getting, just random shots.
Oh,
like,
yeah, for sure.
You're just like, all right, cool. I'll just get a walk.
It's like effortless almost. Yeah. It's really
that's
cool.
Crazy. I didn't really notice that. Did you notice that when we were out there?
And just off this, it's always like, I feel like we've had this discussion in the podcast before. Is it, people are like, do you stay in Milwaukee and build your city, or do you move somewhere else and get different opportunities? But for like, that's a prime example. Like that will never happen here.
Yeah,
you will never get that exposure here.
It is way too cold out here.
Well, yeah, for sure.
And then there's not a lot of people out here obviously walking around, right?
Yeah. There's just creatives everywhere there. And yeah, like you said, the amount of exposure you can reach is crazy.
Yeah. No, I agree.
What can we expect in the near future for the brand?
I'm working on some collaborations. I just did a really cool bracelet. I was telling him earlier for a up and coming clothing brand, actually based out of Milwaukee. So like those little bracelets you would wear as a kid with the plastic blocks where you could create your own like word or name on them. Mm-hmm. So I did that and reinvented that in solid gold for them. So we're kind of working on maybe selling those through them. I'm just really wanting to collaborate with some creatives and help build their brand up, help build my brand up, you know, design something together. So yeah.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to jump
Yeah, let's transition. So we have our set of ordinary free questions that we like to ask our guest. First one is, what advice would you give to someone going into their junior or senior year of high school or even last year of college and don't know what their next move is going to be, don't know what to do?
I would say to test a bunch of things out, because at that stage you're still so young and you don't know exactly what you want. And I think the best way to figure it out is to like dive into different projects and, you know, see like where your passion really lies. And that's a good way of, just figuring out what really drives you and what lights the fire. I also think like interning is a big thing too. So like someone you really, really much admire, like maybe it was me for Ben Baller, like I would try my hardest to get an internship with him so you can work directly under that person that you're trying to be later and just really learn the ways.
Yeah, that's sick.
Yeah.
Did you get that, cameraman? All right, cool. What's the best advice you've gotten and who has given it to you?
What's the best advice I've gotten?
Yeah.
Stop overthinking things and don't care what other people think. I think both of those things are like can create an unstoppable person. Just that's kind of how I like started taking risks and diving into things. Just went full force. Yeah,
that's definitely a motive that will stop anybody, not even just creatives, right? Like the overthinking aspect of it
exactly
just flows through everything.
You do question your work all the time,
like
especially if you're a perfectionist, and that'll stop you and hold you back from things.
Who gave you that advice?
Stop overthinking was probably someone in my family. Probably my brother, my older brother, Justin. Because they know how indecisive I can be.
Stop.
Yeah, exactly.
If you could have dinner with one person, dead or alive, who would it be and where would you take them?
Oh, God. Honestly, Karl Lagerfeld is a good one. You guys know Karl Lagerfeld, right? Mm-mm. Really? Creative director of Chanel? So he just recently passed away.
Oh, yeah.
Still have no idea,
He's like
guys.
a legend.
I'm not even gonna front.
Yeah. He's a legend in the fashion world. I would love to pick his brain. Like, because obviously one of the most iconic brands, and how he continued that legacy and further built that into something crazy like that. Where would I take him? I have no clue. Little cafe in New York, maybe.
Something small, chill, quiet.
Exactly, yeah.
Low key. Yeah.
Right.
Those are the best ones too, though. You know, like the ones that are not like super cluttered, like with tourists and stuff. Like those are the best ones. Okay. On a scale from 1 to 10, how weird are you? How much of a freak are you, and why?
How weird am I?
Yeah.
I would say like an 8.
An 8.
I can be pretty weird. How much of a freak am I? These are all intertwined questions.
Yeah. So obviously you know the name, right? Ordinary Freaks.
Yeah.
And we always tell people like, well, you know, what Ordinary Freaks means to me might be different from what it means to you. So it's always up in the air, up to your interpretation. So that's what
I think any creative like is a little bit weird, because that's what makes them stand out. The bunch, they have their like little quirks, and that's what makes you different, what makes you creative. I think I can be pretty weird. An 8.
An 8.
Yeah.
So 8.
8.
All right,
8.
cool. All right. Well, before we let you go, where can the people find you? If you want to be found,
So my Instagram is at Katrina Vrakas. And the brand's Instagram is at Official Create. The name is Create. So either of those pages, I'd love
Have
to
people
connect.
get it wrong all the time?
Which one?
Like they call you, oh, you're the girl that like founded Official Create.
So yes, the name is technically Create. And everyone's like, Official Create. I'm like, no, it's just Create. But like I couldn't get that on Instagram. So it's Official Create.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we're going to wrap it up.
Cool.
So,
Yes.
thank you, Katrina,
Thank
for
you
coming
for
through.
having me.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, B.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next time.
Peace.